This year, a new superstate is to be established in Africa, the East African Federation. 7 previously independent states want to unite into a single sovereign superstate. It would be the largest country in Africa and the 7th largest in the world. In addition, the state would have over 280 million inhabitants, and the population would rise to over 600 million by 2050 due to the strong population growth in the region, thus far surpassing the US. So we're dealing with a true mega project here. But what's behind it? Will it actually become reality as early as this year, and will the state really be successful? We take a look at all of these questions in today's video. Back in the 1960s, when a majority of African states became independent, the idea of a union emerged, especially in the East African region, to give the newly independent states more international say. At that time, however, the project failed due to disagreements among the various states. The first real steps were taken in 2000, when the 3 states of Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania founded a joint regional organization, the East African Community. The goals were to create a custom union, a common market and a common currency, as well as closer cooperation at the political, social and cultural levels. And in the long term, this was to lead to a federal confederation of states. In 2007, Burundi and Rwanda joined in the process, and in 2016, South Sudan became another member. In 2013, the members came closer to a common state for the first time when they met to negotiate a common constitution. However, the negotiations did not appear to be easy, as they were initially postponed time and again. The accession of South Sudan in 2016 also threw the whole negotiations into disarray again. The country was in civil war at the time, and the borders with its northern neighbor Sudan were not even clearly defined. So in 2018, a new committee was formed and is now working on a common constitution with plans to introduce a common currency this year. In the process, it was surprisingly announced last year that the Democratic Republic of Congo would also join the Union, a state which brings along 90 million inhabitants and is one of the biggest countries in the world. To what extent this will affect the schedule is still unclear. The accession of the DR Congo would, however, increase the economic and geopolitical importance of the state. It would now stretch from the Indian Ocean in the east to the Atlantic Ocean in the west. In addition, the DR Congo brings with it a huge reservoir of raw materials that could now be exported both to China in the east and to the US and EU in the west. But what are the other plans? The proposed capital is the city of Arusha in Tanzania, which is currently also the headquarters of the East African Community. It represents an important hub between the 2 economically strongest countries, Kenya and Tanzania. The currency to be introduced is the East African shilling, which was the currency of the British colonies there between 1921 and 1969. The state is to be founded on the federal principle, similar to Germany. Exact details, however, have not yet been published. This raises the question of how realistic the project actually is. On the one hand, one must say that the states were set again and again ambitious goals for the achievement of a common constitution, which were missed so far again and again. For example, a constitution was supposed to be in place by 2021, but the negotiations still seem to be unfinished. Of course, it is not easy to find a consensus between so many different states, and the accession of the DR Congo has certainly thrown a lot of things into disarray. On the other hand, however, great progress has already been made in achieving an East African customs union and establishing a common market. In addition, East Africa is one of the regions with the strongest economic growth in the world, and due to the ambitious goals, there actually seems to be a will for the implementation of the project in the individual states. Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda and Rwanda in particular are seen as emerging nations that in a joint alliance could also help the very poor states of Burundi and South Sudan to flourish and give a boost to the DR Congo's great economic potential. The average age of the superstate would be 7.8 years, which would of course be incredible future potential. So a merger of the 7 states could make perfect sense and could lead to a strong economic and political bloc in Africa, which would also dramatically increase the geopolitical influence of the region. However, the current timetable is probably too ambitious and it seems unlikely that the state will be established as early as this year. In addition, of course, it remains to be seen whether the state can actually agree on a common constitution. But if it works, the East African Federation would definitely have a lot of potential. So, that was it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If yes, I recommend you my last video where I talked about the bridge which is to be built between Italy and Sicily. Enjoy the video and see you next time.